Welcome back to the finish line, and today we are joined by Racing Posts Josh Stacey, aka the Racing Josh, aka the presenter of YouTube's Racing Central. Josh, how are you, pal?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Good. Long time since we chatted.
I know, not too long. Not a lot's changed either. I think I'm probably in the same set of boxes and same T-shirt, so that's about it.
Hopefully you turned your boxers backwards and inside out. Get at least 4 days out of them.
Doing a Colin Tizard on it.
Sorry?
You're doing a Colin Tizard on it.
I know, yeah. I still can't get over that video. It was so good. I tried to do something funny for it, but I don't know. It's just Cheltenham.
Yours was good. I enjoyed it now, I have to say.
Yeah, I just need anything to talk about Cheltenham. I think I've watched the replay of that Triumph Hurdle about 54 times, so...
I can't watch the replay of that. It's too hard to take.
It's heartbreak.
It's actually heartbreaking for me. By the way, did the dog eat your microphone?
No, probably. He's eating everything else. Go with it.
Is there a hole in the microphone here?
Like speaking of, we were talking about Goshen and that on Josh's YouTube channel, and I think it's still raw to everyone what happened.
If you followed him and you really thought he was going to win, it's raw. It's raw from me anyway. You had to bring me back from the brink that day.
No, he was contemplating jumping off the
That
top
was
of the
it.
pub.
I was done.
He was gone.
Because it had been an up and down week, and I was full sure this was getting the ball rolling for Friday, and then Album Photo was going to win. And when he was so far clear and he fell, I was like, right, I've had it with this now. I'm fucked it with this.
He was a horse that I was with for the whole of the build-up to Cheltenham. Then suddenly I just, sort of a couple of days before, I've never really heard Paul Nicholls and the team sort of talk about a horse the way they did solo. And I changed. And it was still hurt a lot. You couldn't imagine how the Moore family feel. He looks an absolute superstar, doesn't he?
Oh, he tailor-made champion hurdle, tailor-made, as we said on your show, Ebor certainty if he gets in.
His form was stacking up with the horses he beat coming out and winning races, and I know everybody was saying about his jumping and going right-handed and stuff, but like I watched all his races back a good few times, and it was just pure laziness because he's so far ahead. There's nothing to lead him, and you're just leaving him pop over hurdles towards the end of the race. Realistically,
there was a case that he probably jumped better going right-handed.
Yeah,
that was probably his best jumping round in the Triumph.
Yeah, it was probably because he had something going fast enough that he could lead him around really. But even All Mankind, from about after 5 hurdles, he hadn't a hope. He's out and he was just gone like.
It'd be interesting to see actually, because like juveniles have often struggled then stepping up to open company, but they do look quite a good bunch, so it might be interesting.
I think it could be one of the best bunches we've after seeing now in a long time.
Yeah,
especially him. He's just a freak out and out on his own though.
I completely agree. I do think though that if Goshen wasn't in the race, I do think All Mankind would have won. I think he was the only horse that really sort of put it up to Goshen, and that probably.
I would agree. I think he's the second best horse. He's the horse to probably take out of the race after Goshen, but he literally tried to run the finish out of Goshen and ran the finish out of himself.
Yeah, well, I think Goshen just looks a different beast.
It's mad. Like we're here to talk about our top 5 horses, and we still end up talking about Cheltenham somehow.
That's the case.
It's because it's really the only racing that we've seen in so many weeks, and it's still kind of raw and still there for everybody because we haven't seen anything else. Like,
it's probably the next race meeting we're going to be at.
Yeah, that's very true. Are we talking about all flat horses or
mix and match? All you want, mix and match, Josh.
I have both as well anyway. So
the problem is in my notes I put down 5 jumps horses.
That's fine. I have 4 jumps and 1 flat because I felt bad I didn't have any flat, and the flat horse is number 5.
We'll just have to pick one out of the hat. No clue about it.
No, go with your jump horses.
My jump horses. Do you want me to do all 5 or
go? We'll all go 5 and then we'll go down the list as we go.
My 5 best horses. I'm only going to do it because obviously I don't have age on my side. I've not seen some of the greats, but the ones that I have seen, I go Sprinter Sacra, Hurricane Fly, Corto Star, Denman, and Faheen. In my lifetime and what I've enjoyed, I think they're the 5 best horses that I've seen.
Any of them now? Which one actually grabbed you to get you into it racing practically?
Well, I got into racing when I was about sort of 13, and that would have been about 2012, and that was sort of Sprinter Sacre era when he sort of first burst on the scene. It was sort of his novice chasing era, won the Arkle so easily, then won the Champion Chase. I think he's the one horse that got me into racing, if I'm honest. I think he had everything. Could jump, travel, gears, did everything for fun.
On Sprinter Sacre now, this is a question I'm going to throw at you out of the blue.
Yeah.
If Sprinter Sacre was going up against Altio, who comes out on top?
Sprinter Sacre.
Really? I actually
By
think
10.
Altio wins. I think Altio wins.
Oh, I don't know.
I think the problem is going down the hill, Nico would be puffing out of his arse on Altior, and Barry would be cruising on the bridle on Sprinter, and I think Sprinter would just be too far ahead. I think Sprinter would be 10 lengths clear jumping the second last, and I don't think he gets caught.
They're polar opposites in the way they win their races. Whereas Altior hits flat spots and then kicks on up the hill. Sprinter was all speed and was just way too far ahead for anything to come back at him in the end anyway.
It would be interesting. I think there'd be a huge difference in the distance turning for home and the finishing line. If only we had that one day. That would have been great.
I actually do think Altior travels better in better races as well, so it's hard to know really.
I just think, like, as in Altio, I don't think Altio gets the recognition he deserves. I think Sprinter gets more because of the comeback of what happened to him. And I think Altio, obviously 17 races unbeaten.
I think it was 19.
19 races unbeaten. He gets beat twice in his whole career. Once in a bumper around Punchestown and then behind Surname at Ascot. And to me, he's more longevity. He's done more. For me, he's done more. I rate him better than Sprinter Sacre.
Look,
I don't think he's beaten a horse. When Sprinter Sacre won the second Champion Chase, not only obviously had all the problems, but he beat a horse in Undersow, who at the time was unbeatable. He just decimated anything in his way. Do you think Altior's beaten a horse of Undersow's caliber in that time? I don't think that obviously he's beaten Undersow, but he's not beaten as good of a horse, I don't think.
Probably not, no. But I think it's just his racing style. He's never going to win by a distance or anything flashy like that. Like, I have a flat horse down as well, who I'm going to get slated for this. I potentially, by a smidgen, think this horse is better than Frankel. See the stars.
Yeah, that's a big debate, isn't it?
It's hard to know what horses that are a little bit lazy, and I actually do think, I wouldn't say I'd be the biggest fan of Nico, but I don't think he's a bad jockey. But he's not really the biggest talker in interviews and stuff like that. He doesn't really elaborate a whole lot on what's going on. Whereas the likes of Big Bucks years ago was super lazy and was talked about. Ruby talked about him. Paul Nicholls talked about him. Everybody knew what he was when he was racing, in a similar mold to like Paisley Park. I actually think Altior is really, really lazy horse. And when he needs to win and he needs to go faster, then it just kicks in. But Nico really doesn't ever go into that. He just says at the end of the races, he was there for me when I needed him, blah, blah, blah. So
sounds like Bryony.
It would be a really interesting one. And I do think this season, Altior has kind of suffered from out of sight, out of mind. He lost that race and then people just wrote him off. The race he won then in Newbury, obviously he still didn't look like he was fully back to himself, but I do think he would have won the Champion Chase again. No matter if Shishkin was there or Duffy obviously blew up anyway, so it made no difference. And the fact that people gave out a lot about Politologue finishing second to him, that he's not a good horse. He came out and won the Champion Chase this year. It's probably his best performance as a horse, but it shows you that Altior is beating decent horses.
Yeah, I agree. You looking at the Champion Chase this year, you'd have thought if Shishkin Poursois was in it, how far would he have won?
Yeah.
If Altior was in it, how far would he have won? I think both of them would have beaten Politologue.
I went from being the race of the meeting to the worst race of the meeting in the space of 2 days.
It was a bit like the Champion Hurdle the year before.
Yeah.
Obviously, we had all of them turn up, which is obviously a positive, but it still was sort of lackluster and a bit poor.
I reckon now next year, it all going well, I think Shishkin will be very, very hard to beat next year. I think Altior might just have hit his peak and he's on the way back down now. And I think Shishkin's been so lightly raced. Up to this time last year, he was only seen twice on a race course, and his second run was a Grade 1 novice chase around Punchestown, beating Deafy Desai and beating him out of sight. I still don't think we've seen truly what Shishkin plus what is.
It's hard to know. I think he's very good as well, but it's hard to know, will you ever see how truly good he is, because he does seem a bit fragile.
Well, why he was taken out of the champion chase was a foot abscess. That's not really an injury, that's just a little infection, and he was fine the day after. Willie said if he got it on Monday, he would have been able to run on the Wednesday. I just think they've minded him so much because they knew how good he could be. And I think next year we're going to see, even his performance against Min in the Dublin Racing Festival, on the clock, that was unbelievable. And to keep going at the end, everyone said he was paddling. I said it myself, he was paddling. But when you go back and look at it, they were going so fast from word go. Like they had Arnua, who just has one gear, and that's 6th gear the whole way around. And we were talking to Dylan Robson, who was on him that day, and he said by the time Shishkin jumped past him and landed, he was a dot in the distance by the time Arnua landed. I think this fella is different class.
One thing's for certain, he's not going to have to worry about any of the novices.
No,
God no.
Novice bunches. It possibly the worst novice bunch we've had in a long time.
It would be
probably since Footpad and Petit Mouchoir and who was the other one? Nicky Henderson. St. Calvados. He's after kind of coming back this year.
It would be
he's still cat though.
It would if Shishkin wins it next year, it would be the following year. Novices, then I'd say you'd have to worry about the likes of Shishkin and Captain Guinness and those ones. I think the Supreme was a good race this year.
Yeah, I agree. Shishkin, still can't believe he won, considering the way he travelled and then got into trouble, beat Abracadabras. I don't think Abracadabras is ever going to win a race at the Cheltenham Hill.
No, he went ahead at one stage and he looked like he just flattened out.
I reckon in a lot of races he'll trade really short and he'll get out battled. He'll lose more Grade 1s than he'll win from sheer being beaten in the last half furlong.
I was even looking at, just before we came on, I was sitting down having a coffee watching last year's Punchestown Festival, and he ran in the bumper that Coolreevy won, and he looked the winner turning in, and Jamie Codd kicked 2 lengths clear, and I can't remember who was on. I think it was Lisa O'Neill or something. Just couldn't get near him, couldn't get back to him. There was nothing under the tank.
I know, and if you look at Coolreevy now, that's not great form.
No.
So I don't know. Really, really tricky horse, I think, to get right.
Yeah. Right.
He'll win a Grade 1 one day, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think when he's 12-1, not fancy because he can't see out of any of his races.
It'll be
he suffered a little bit as well in the fact that the horses that fell around him. Now I know Shishkin suffered interference as well, but I'd say Davy was there a furlong too soon. He didn't want to be out in front how he was, but circumstances made other horses fall in front of him. There's not much you can do about that.
He was also really unlucky at the start. The standing start didn't help him whatsoever as well. Very unlucky, but Shishkin. How good do you think Shishkin is?
I think if he turns up and takes the fences, he'll be very hard to beat in the Arkle next year. I crabbed him up to the day of the Supreme Novice. Didn't like him whatsoever, even though I backed him when he won his maiden hurdle. I don't know. It's just something about him. He just looks. He doesn't look the finished article. He looks real dangly and real leggy. I think he once a summer on his back, grow a bit more. I think he could be a very, very exciting chaser. Even that's taking into the price that he's already favourite for the Arkle.
You'd have to mark up the performance. He jumped one badly and then he got hampered as well and basically had to jump over a horse, and still won. So,
but if you say that, but still niggles my mind. It wouldn't be the first very good horse that Nicky Henderson sends over chasing and just absolutely hates it and comes back and runs in the champion hurdle and might go close in it. So I was actually looking at that last night. I think he's 6-1 to win any race at the Cheltenham Festival. Not 6-1, sorry. He's 4-1 to win any race at the Cheltenham Festival. So he's currently 4-1 to win the Arkle. So you're getting the Arkle, you're getting the JLT, you're getting the champion hurdle, and you're getting the RSA, but he won't run the RSA.
He actually gave a great interview about Shishkin and comparing him to Altor. I don't know if either of you seen it. It was the middle of last week, and they asked him about fences or hurdles. And he said we'll have this kind of same discussions that we had with Patricia Pugh about Altior. We had 3 meetings, Nico, myself, the owners, and we went back and forth with it. And he said at that stage, I was absolutely 100% confident Altior would win the champion hurdle. The horses he was going against the following year, I told the Pews, look, you can win a champion hurdle, or we can fast track it, go to the Arkle, and then start going champion chases. He all but said Shishkin would beat Epatante, would beat Bouvardier, but I can't be fully certain he'd win the champion hurdle. But he basically said he's the best hurdler in my stable anyway, and he has a champion hurdler in the stable, like 2 of them.
I know.
Do you think a lot?
Epatante is good. She'll win it next year.
But do you know what boggled me today? That he drifted so much. He drifted so much, and there was a lot of money on Chantry House out the same stable. Like, they mustn't have thought going into it if they put so much money on Chantry House.
Well, Andrew Tinkler was in the office that day, and he obviously gets to go out to the yard quite often and ride them out. And he said that Chantry House is better than Shishkin in the office, and I thought, well, that must be a big tip in itself. And then he sort of said, I said, if you could ride one of them, who would it be? He said Chantry House. So I think a lot of support came for it, because inside the stable, I don't think they could split them massively. And I think there's a bit of debate still which one was better in the stable. So I think they both started about 6-1, didn't they?
I think it was 9-2 and Shishkin was 7s.
Yeah, Shishkin started at 7s. I actually like Chantry House as well. I was hoping they'd put him into the county hurdler on the handicaps. I thought he was a certainty for one of them.
He definitely didn't run his race anyway.
I think he's going to be an unlucky horse. I think he'll step up and trip and probably go over a fence, but that might meet Var Allen next year in the JLT. So
yeah,
might not be winning that.
No, I doubt he'll win that and going against him. Best horse in training, by the way. Hands down. Don't care what anyone says. Right. You're 5.
5.
Go.
5 is going to be one you laugh at, but like Andrew knows I'm going to put him in, and it's just
you will laugh. Genuine, you're going to. You might fall off your chair right now.
You said since you're watching racing, and it's the same for me. Since I started watching racing maybe when I was 17, 18, and it's what kind of horses that are in your heart, or in my heart anyway, from me anyway. And number 5 is Loose Chips.
I'm sorry, by the way.
Now, Loose Chips is an absolute dog, but he won me so much money over the years of racing, from when he was like a 7-year-old to a 13-year-old. Twice a season, he'd probably run, I don't know, he'd probably run 10 times a season. Twice a season, you'd catch him at 10-1, and you'd make all your money back on those two races. And just the sheer will.
Okay, that's enough about Loose Chips.
And the way he ran from the front with the blinkers, I loved it. Number 4 is Flat Horse Found. From the start of her 4-year-old season, I was fully positive she'd win the Arc, and she duly obliged. She kept coming second, but I really thought there was a big day in her. 3rd is a Flat Horse again, See the Stars. I tend to agree.
Stop looking at my notes, you shit.
Tend to agree with Andrew that he might have beaten Frankel. I really, really like Frankel as well, and I like the way he won his races. But See the Stars, to me, didn't get enough credit for how good he was, because 2 years later Frankel came along and everybody just forgot about See the Stars. I think See the Stars beat better horses in his races. Master Craftsman, Fame and Glory, the Arc he won. He was just unbelievable. And he only ever did enough and then kind of stopped when he was a length ahead.
Do you think it would have been a case where he would have just done enough against Frankel?
Yeah.
I was looking through all his races last night, and he never won a race more than 2.5 lengths. Every single race was 2.5 lengths or less.
The grade 1 winners that came out that he beat is just insane. The Arc he won was just loaded with decent horses as well. Number 2 is probably, in my opinion, unbelievable. Nothing could beat him. The only thing stopped him was getting injured. And then number 1 is Denman, my favourite horse by a mile, but the horse is Big Bucks. But Denman, just again, straight from the front, big bull, I'm going to go as fast and as strong as I can, and if you can beat me, all well and good. Just loved him.
That Hennessy, I watched it the other day. I think it was on Twitter, surfing around, and it was just outrageous.
He's something special, wasn't he? He was just a big brute, carrying 11 stone 12 and 2 Hennessy's. I have wrote down. What was he get? He was given a stone and a half or more away in his second one, and to give a horse like Waterfriend a stone and a half and a beating was one of the best performances I've ever seen over a fence.
A Ruby still. Go on far away, Josh.
Do you think this year, so album photo, dual Gold Cup winner, how close do you think he gets to Denman?
He doesn't.
Though I'd say the 3 mile chasers, the Gold Cup chasers at the moment are 7-8 pounds behind what Denman and Coal Star were.
Yeah, I'd maybe even say more.
Yeah, I think they're jumping the last when they're 3/4 of the way up the hill.
That was literally a golden generation. Like
I think they're of the exotic dancer mould.
I was just about to say him. I reckon if he was around now, he'd have a good chance of beating the likes that are around now. But he hadn't a hope against them men and Coal Star.
Yeah, it was different gravy.
But
absolute beast.
Like Ruby basically blamed himself for the novice hurdle Denman lost to Cheltenham, and he said he tried to like rein him back, and that's why he lost. And then in the end, it was just like, look, you're so big, you're so strong, just go as fast as you can, and we'll see what happens. And the second Hennessy is obviously a better performance, but the first Hennessy, when he jumped the cross fence and coming around into the straight, and Sam Thomas took a look behind him, and everything was just half dead behind him. So I don't think Sam Thomas could believe what he was sitting on. Like
everything looked beat after a mile in most of the Hennessy's.
Yeah.
Right, we get on to my 5. The most important 5. You'll enjoy this. So my number 5 is See the Stars. As Dave touched on, and we said at the start, well, I said at the start, I genuinely think he's better than Frankel. As we just touched on, he only ever wins this race by 2.5 lengths and more. He beat the likes of Mastercraftman, Fame and Glory, Rip Van Winkle, Ewan's Aim in the Arkle, and I like even I was watching a feature on Racing TV with Mick Cannan the other day, and he beat around the bush of not saying that he was better than Frankel, but he thought he was better than Frankel. You could he said it without saying it.
A typical trainer before the festival.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we think he's good, but we'll see on the day.
There were some serious horses in that Arky one. Really, what Stacelita was in that. She was after winning three fillies grade ones in France. They were nearly sure she was going to win the Arc.
I'll see. Can I get it right now? But yeah, I like even the Champion Stakes he won. He won that doing handstands, beating horses that were whooping other grade 1 horses all season, and he just comes along and sluices past them. But for me, that what makes me think he's the best, it was his arc performance. From the position he had, from where Mick had to go for a gap, and there was so much horse underneath, and in the blink of an eye, when I think the commentator said he'll have to be a champion to win from here, and Mick just gave him a flick of the reins and off he took. There was no stopping him. But the second he went past Ewan Zane, the ears were up, he was looking around. Jesus, I'm good, aren't I? I'm going to slow down now, I'm tired.
It was mad to watch that somewhere because Aidan had four shots at him to beat him, and literally tried everything with every horse he had in the stable to beat him, and it couldn't get him beat. Could have tried to get him beat in the Derby, tried to get him beat in the Eclipse, tried to get him beat in the Juddmonte, tried to get him beat in the Irish Champion Stakes, and then just gave up. He knew he was going to win the Arc.
I think the Champion Stakes there were 6 runners. One was See the Stars, and a nearly full show the rest were Aidan O'Brien horses. And I think the plan was to make a little semicircle and try again caution the rail, and he still got out. He's different class. My number 4 is probably one of the horses that actually got me into racing, and a size in Europe. He was trained by Henry de Bromhead. He had an okay first season over hurdles, but he really came to the fore when he won the Greatwood at Cheltenham. He beat who did he beat?
Ozana.
What am I saying? Ozana. Then he went on to Leopardstown, beat Hardy Eustace by 8 lengths, and he was sent off 2-1 favour for the champion hurdle that year, only for to get a really, really bad back injury. And I started in Henry the Bromheads the year after that, and he was only coming back into it, and they did so much flat work with him, so much dressage work with him to get his back nice and strong again, and for him to even race again after that was a miracle. And then it goes on to he wins this Arkle. But what bothered me the most was when Alan Potts, it's not even Henry the Bromhead, when Alan Potts tried to turn him into a Gold Cup horse. They started with
Controversy coming here now.
Me? Controversy? Never.
I definitely agree. I think I saw sort of the latter side of his career, and that was sort of the start of Sprinter Sacre, and then there's that famous Champion Chase where he stumbles and Sprinter Sacre just glides around, and I didn't probably get to see the best of him.
Yeah, even a fully fit, proper age size in Europe, I don't think he would have beaten Sprinter Sacre on that day. Even they went to Punchestown a month later, and he confirmed the form with size in Europe. But size in Europe never performed good around Punchestown, bar his beginner chase. He won the Arkle, then got beat by Big Zeb. He got thrown into the Champion Chase then of the Punchestown Champion Chase, and he was beat again by Gold and Silver. And then the year after that, he was beat by Sprinter Sacre. I just don't think Punchestown was his track. I think he loved Cheltenham as he won the Greatwood, he won the Arkle, he won the Champion Chase. But the infamous Finian's Rainbow Gold Cup, where the last was omitted, and to this day I still think he would have won if they had jumped the last.
He would have won. I think his best performance in the Arkle, but he was robbed of that Champion Chase from Finian's Rainbow as well.
And just on what such a good horse he was. Remember when Johnny Burke got the job for the Pots? His first ride was size in Europe in the JM Mine around Gorham Park. I was up there that day standing at the last, and he was about 2 lengths down jumping the last, and Johnny Burke got stuck into him, got him up in the line. The only reaction I've heard like this was when Faugheen won when we were up in Punchestown
the
Stayers hurdle.
3 mile hurdle.
It was unbelievable. He'll always go down to one of my favourites. I used to give him a little cuddle in the stable and everything.
He was a great horse.
What was that, number 4?
That was 4.
Number 3 is Faugheen the Machine. I'm kind of I'm mad at myself he's only 3.
I'm very surprised he's not number 1.
I was 15-20 minutes debating the top 3 what way to put him, and I even changed the top 3 about 10 minutes before it.
We were here talking to Patrick Mullins last week, and as soon as Faugheen was mentioned, and you could feel Andrew's heart rate was rising. That's how much he loves Faugheen.
I think this season he's proved any doubters wrong. At the start of the season I put out a tweet saying I think it's bonkers they're even going novice chasing with him. He's 12 or will be 12 at Cheltenham Festival, and nuts. That day at Leopardstown Dublin Racing Festival, I think that was my best day ever on a race course. Everything just came into one. I think 95% of the people there came for Faugheen, and he duly delivered, and it was just magical.
It reminded me when he, not even the Leopardstown race is great, but when he beat Sam Crow at Limerick over Christmas, it reminded me of when everybody said it's time to retire Cordo Star, and he ended up winning the Betfair or the King George against Long Run after Long Run had beat him in the Cheltenham Gold Cup.
He won the Betfair as well.
It was just what a performance from an older horse, and again it was that kind of style where everybody still thinking Sam Crow was this, and Sam Crow is good. He went on to win at Cheltenham, but back at Christmas in Leopardstown it was still up and down. Sam Crow's the real deal, and Faugheen beat him, being an 11-year-old. It was some performance.
Like it's even the fact that you go back to, what was it, 2017 when we got at 2017 or 2016 when he got beat 22 lengths behind Bouverdaire in the champion hurdle. There was calls then for him to be retired, and he got pulled up then at Aintree, I think, behind Super Sunday, and then
they stacked him up, didn't they?
Yeah, and then he went. That's when he went to Punchestown. They ran him over 3 miles for the first time since his novice hurdling campaign, and he beat Penn Hill, who was then the Stayers, the Cheltenham Festival Stayers hurdle winner. He whooped him by 13 lengths, like.
And then it was the year after where Apple's Jade won the Hatton Grace, and then they ran them both over 3 miles, I think, at Leopardstown, and didn't Faheen fall?
They all thought he was dead.
Yeah.
Patrick said it good last week. They're a long time retired, so if they're still liking it and still wanting to race, they should be racing. I'm a big believer in the veterans races. I know some people don't like them. I like seeing horses come back, and Faheen's a perfect example of they're animals, and same as humans, you'll have good days and bad days, but class is permanent. He'll always be a grade 1 horse, and if he comes there on his day, he's going to win races.
Training.
The vibes he got was they're not retiring him, because he said he's out in the field now. We'll take him back in the start of July, and we'll take it from there. So I'd say they might see what he's like. See, he hasn't really had a hard campaign this season. He's had three runs. He'll have a long break. He'll get revved up again. He'll have a little prep run. I think he was unlucky at Cheltenham this year. And I think it could be in the back of Richie's head. Why not send him for the Gold Cup? Could you imagine him even going close in the Gold Cup?
Patrick was very honest about every horse last week, and he did say, look, last year when he came in, he basically told us he still wanted to race. Up until that point, we were happy to retire him, and the same will happen this year. We'll bring him back in if the fire is still burning bright. Then let's give him a race and see what happens.
I think if he was to win a Gold Cup, I don't think you'd ever see a finer day at Cheltenham.
No, you'd have to pick me up off the floor, and you'd have to wipe the tears away from my face. I'd be a mess. I'd be an emotional wreck, I'd say.
I think if he comes back in and wins any kind of a decent race before Christmas next year, especially with what's after happening, that nobody got to see him at Punchestown. We lost the last 6-7 weeks of jumps racing. I think if he came in and won a race to start the next year, people would there'd be tears everywhere.
Absolutely.
No. Sorry, this is something that to happen. 2 seconds. Keep recording me. Keep going. Don't worry.
Technical difficulties.
Technical issues, yeah.
And we're back. Don't worry about it. We're back.
What's the number 4 on the list?
What was...
I was 3, so you've number 2.
I've number 2. So number 2 is Denman. He was number 1 up to 1:15 today, but I changed it at the last minute. As we touched on already, his Hennessy's were just unbelievable. Giving away that much weight, and then going on winning Lexus, and then going on to win, to me, possibly the best Gold Cup ever ran, where he beat Quarter Star by 11 lengths, and he had a future Grand National winner, Neptune Clange, just behind him. To me, one of the best National Hunt performances I've ever seen in my life, and for that calibre of horses to be behind him and beat that far, I think that day was the day we seen Denman at his absolute peak. As then after that, obviously he was found to have a hole in his heart
abnormalities, but he's one of the, we didn't touch on it really when we were talking about him when I said it, but he's one of the only horses, and Josh's horse Sprinter Sacra, that's had serious health problems that really came back to proper the rating that they were before they had their health problems.
Like, if you even take the reason I think he's better than Quarter Star, I think they meet 1, 2, 3 times. Denman was in front from twice when he finished second behind Long Run in the Gold Cup. Quarter was third, and the year that Quarter beat Denman, he still wasn't fully right. To me, that's why I think Denman is the better horse, even though Quarter Star has won all the King Georges, the Tingle Creeks. Like, you can compare him, you can't. Quarter was a freak in the way he could win championship races from 2 miles up to Gold Cup standard.
Yeah, he had speed and stamina.
Which brings me on to number 1.
Go on.
The horse that got the finish line going My first tip ever on the finish line was sizing John to win the Irish Gold Cup and go on to win the Gold Cup. Proudest day of my life. I'm still living on that.
We were talking about Potts and sort of making 2 mile chases a Gold Cup horse, and he must have been absolutely thrilled when that one.
He took long enough to make this one a Gold Cup horse, because for a long time it was like he was making sure he stayed over 2 miles, and he looked like he needed a trip.
He seen the back of Douvan's arse 7 times over 2 miles. 7 times the back of Douvan's arse.
You think you get the hint after 2?
It was only when he got moved to Jessica Harrington's from Henry's that they stepped him up. Well, the first one was over 2 miles against Douvan, and I think that put the nail in the coffin. Right, lads, the hell with 2 miles. He went on and beat Sub Lieutenant over 2 mile 4, and then he won the Irish Gold Cup, beating Empire Dirt, and then he went on. Was he the only horse ever to do the Irish Gold Cup, the Cheltenham Gold Cup, and the Punchestown Gold Cup?
Yes.
In the one season.
Yes.
How is he not the best horse ever?
He was very good.
And he's back.
Very good.
He's back in training. He's starting doing light work. He was. Fox Hunters, here we come.
I think, I'll be honest, I think that's all they could kind of hope for, because he's very, very fragile. But shows it. One season winning all those big 3 mile races, it's just so hard for horses. And I know none of us picked Coro Star in our list. It just shows you how special he was, because he really didn't have any health problems his entire career, and he won 5 King Georges, 4 or 5 Betfair chases. Every year he came back and mixed it with the best 3 mile chasers and never got injured.
That's where I probably touched back onto what I said about Altior and Sprinter Sacra. Corto probably is probably in the same bracket as some people as Altior is. Or Sprinter Sacra, Altior is. He probably doesn't get enough recognition for what he's done. Where Demon had a heart problem and so on, he came back and won all the Hennessy's.
I think also a big part of that is the price. No real punter can look at Altior as a betting proposition when he's 1 to 6 to win this Tingle Creek. And it was sort of similar with Corto Star, obviously not as short, but because he was so consistent, no one really had a great day out of him.
Yeah.
Whether Denman was a decent price, Sprinter in his second champion chase was a decent price.
Yeah.
So I think you have better days when they win at decent prices, which probably gives you more of a connection.
That's true. You get more invested into it from your pocket and heart.
When you win more money out of it, your heart is more invested in the horse. It's true, like it really is. Like
how many lengths behind Denman does Sizing John at both of their peaks finish?
Oof. At peak,
I still think Denman's a better horse than Sizing John, but Sizing John would beat he'd beat the 3 mile chasers that are there at the moment. If that Sizing John turned up that won those 3 races, he would have won the Gold Cup this year.
Would Sizing John have beaten Corto Star both at the peak?
Over 3 miles?
No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't beat. He wouldn't beat them in our Corto Star.
Dead heat.
Dead heat. Tom's not even here. We're not supposed to be sitting on the fence.
Sorry. Yes, he would have.
Yeah, well.
I think. I think he's kind of. He has that bit more of a bite and fight in him. He's a big brute that just loves getting a smack of the whip.
Racing's a game of opinions. You could put 25 people on this video and we'll all give different horses and give different reasons as to why other horses would beat other horses. No doubt people will watch this and there'll be loads of comments about Frankel being better than Sea the Stars. It's 100% going to happen.
I think 24 out of the 25 would say that Corto Star would beat Sizing John in the Gold Cup.
And here's that one.
And you know what happened?
Look, realistically, you probably would.
You know what happened? Sizing John would beat him and he'd never, ever leave it down. He'd say it every single video. I told you.
But I do. I get these little inklings. Sometimes they happen. And I'm never going to leave it down. Bloody Tom is still living off at Plutard. And he hasn't even won a race.
To be fair, we left Tom away with Mordor for that now. We felt sorry for him, so we didn't abuse him.
Oh no, jump season preview is not far away, my friend.
I'm planning mine already.
So am I. There's nothing else to do.
4-year-olds to follow.
I'm just writing off the flat season altogether.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention anyway.
It's mad. Like obviously Punchestown is this week, and I'd be putting away money for going up there, and every week I'd have a certain amount of betting every week. Like I've so many bets done for Cheltenham next year that I'd never ever have done at this time of the year because I've nothing else to spend my money on. Sitting down going, yeah, I think he might have a chance in that race, and then you look, shit, I've 4 of them backed in that race. Maybe I should go on to a different race.
Yeah, you can get sucked in so easily, but flat racing isn't for some people. I'm definitely one of those.
Yeah, I'm in the same bracket now. I couldn't give 2 flying beeps.
Look, I'm glad it's going to be there in the summer. It'll be back and it'll be something to watch, but it just doesn't have the same. It doesn't grip you like jumps racing grips you.
Which is why I think horses like Frankel are the horses that you talk about, because obviously flat horses' career is only so short.
Yeah.
You need to wonders in that 3 year period. If not, you're forgotten. Whether like jumps horses, Q Card, how long was he around for? 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And it's so many storylines, so many different divisions.
To be fair, I'd say if you lined up 10 horses and you had 5 really good flat horses, 5 jumps horses, and you gave it to any kind of normal Joe Soap, they'd pick out the jumps horses because they'd recognise the name is faster than the flat horses. Because their career is short. They have a 2-year-old, 3-year-old career really, and then they're forgotten about.
Yeah, like, I understand why they're retired at young ages, but when they're retired, I've seen horses retire at 2, retire at 3, and it's like, let them run. We want to see them at their very best.
I'd say they're delighted going off to do a job. Like
they're going off riding for the rest of their lives.
They're doing a job that they're not going to say no to.
That's my favourite thing ever, when McCoy said, if you could do anything, if you could be anything other than a jockey, he said I'd be a stallion, because you just have supermodel horses come in and just got to do the business.
See,
get paid millions.
Who was it? Was it Frankel's out there seeing Trev this week? Or was Kingman seeing Trev this week. Imagine how good that thing is going to be.
It's mad because a lot of those big meetings between 2 really good Grade 1 horses that end up being terrible.
Yeah, but even like the breeding side of things, I'm only interested in to see what Annie Power does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's jumps.
And Quavega.
Apparently they're going to Crystal Ocean. Is it Quavega or was one of Annie Power's in fold to Camelot, isn't she?
She's helping with Galileo, I think.
Galileo, and then she went to Camelot.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. I actually think he'll be a decent jump star at Crystal Ocean. He's tough. He's one of the more tougher flat horses, because flat horses can tend to be a little bit soft.
Bitches.
Yeah,
hence the reason they're not very fond of extending the flat season into November, where they're, oh no, my hooves are getting wet. What do I do now?
See, I suggested moving the flat season back, sort of everything back a month, and just rerunning it like that, and just have treacherous ground. And you could even have Champions Day on the Christie Chase Day at Ascot. We could have a 2-day meeting, flat and jumps mix.
That's a lock-in in the pub right there. Speaking of jumps, before I let you go,
yeah,
anti-post bet for Cheltenham. Get it in again.
The boss is Oscar to win the Kim Muir, if you can get a price on that.
I will get a price.
I think there is prices on it. He's priced up for the 4-miler anyway. Definitely.
Yeah, I think.
I would agree with you though. He looked unlucky at Cheltenham, and he definitely wants a trip.
I'll check.
Yeah.
Roll up now and I check.
His form in around other horses stacks up pretty well as well.
I think I'll be following wherever he goes. I think he's just
the boss is
good
anti-post. Cheltenham Festival.
Because the Milan native was a novice this year.
It's not there.
Go into the 4-miler.
Who am I looking for again?
The boss is Oscar.
33-1 for the
4-miler.
Yeah, I think I'll be leaning towards Kim Muir. You can imagine card on him and turning it 5-1 on the day.
Yeah, get on him now.
You'd surely get a price to win any race.
Yeah, I say if you do the normal, ask out the bookies and they'll do it.
He'd be one now. He's a good shout because he'd be plotted at a handicap and cod around Jamie Codd, but codded around for a couple of races and then turn up win a Cheltenham.
That was like a Chandler joke right there.
I didn't even mean to do that.
Right, before we let you go, we were talking on Sunday about something that the Finish Line and Racing Central might be doing. So we're thinking to have a quiz against each other some night over Zoom. What?
You better hope I'm available, because you have no hope if I'm not here. I'm the stats and the remember everything. Tom, I don't know. He'd need some maths questions, I think.
There's already disturbance in the camp. That's not good. Our team are flying along. We've been doing our revision prep.
Oh no, we'll be alright.
Yeah, I'm doing my prep as well. Maybe nice they win by.
I'm after actually over the course of this lockdown, I'm after doing a couple of quizzes online with this Kahoot app. It's actually very good.
Oh, sound for the invite. Thanks, appreciate that.
Very good. It passes an hour. We live in. That's the only social life that's available at the moment.
He only sees
it?
me.
Everyone's just doing quizzes.
Yeah.
Pub quizzes will be sold out afterwards.
Oh, stop it. The best thing ever. Right. Josh, appreciate you coming on, pal.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And lads, again, if you haven't seen Racing Central, pop over and you'll see my ugly mug on it as well. And there's loads of other good videos. And again, thanks for watching, lads. If you enjoyed it, give us a like, subscribe, and we will see you again next week.
See you, Josh.